and heal together. And I think there is no better way to continue this conversation today than introducing the next speaker, Emmanuel, who will share with you what he went through and how he translated it into creating positive change. Emmanuel, please.
Well, I want to say thank you to MasterPeace. I heard Fiona, Eric, Jasminko, and Sabab. I don't know how to spell it, just how to pronounce it. And Saba, thank you for that great introduction about art. I want to begin with a question. Who owns your mind? Who owns your mind? Because the battles are fought in the mind and they are won in the heart. And whoever owns your mind owns you and everything you create. So what on my mind was fear, worry, anxiety, and poverty. And what dominated my mind the most was trauma. And what is it? I call it a soul murder, a mental genocide, an invasion of demons to occupy space in your mind. So you have flashbacks in the day and nightmares at night. And where did it come from? So it's rooted in my childhood experiences. I was born in a times where my country was at war with itself, and that war reached the core of my family. So all my aunties died in the war, all my uncles except two. My mom was claimed by that war. At the age of 7, my father gave me out and told me I'm going to go to school in Ethiopia, where I ended up becoming a child soldier. And imagine on that journey, seeing 6, 7 years old, burying their own dead. When somebody dies, we dig our own grave, we bury our own dead. What made me walk on that journey is the excitement of, I want to go to school. I wanted to be able to learn how to create things. How did they make planes? Simply, how did they make biscuits and package them this way? How did they make clothes? How can I be a part of a solution someday? And all I was told, if you go to school, you're going to learn a lot of things. And in that journey, drove me until when I got to Ethiopia. And when we arrived in Ethiopia, we went to school for a while. And after a while, I ended up being trained and I became a child soldier. Now, I want to share a part of my journey that laid a foundation to do a lot of things that I do now. Because I believe each one of us has got a story, and each one of us has experiences. And your lowest point gives you the lessons or wisdom that you can share with others. So we plan an escape from not becoming child soldiers anymore. And we're told the journey was going to take us 1 month. And after 1 month, it wasn't ending. So it took us 3 months. So we applied our basic soldier skills. We could eat anything we could find. In the first month, in this arriving here, I still have those memories. I remember when there was no water, we arrived in this savanna grass and we wipe our hand on the grass and lick it several times. That's the water. But it became more intensive when we keep on moving. Other soldiers started drinking their own urine. And as things became more intensive, some soldiers could not bear it, so they end their lives. There was a young man that was being carried, and I look at him. He was put under a tree, and he was promised he's going to be picked later. Now, 50 meters away, he cocked his G3 and fired it on his head. I was in shock, but I just kept looking and moved on. And in my thoughts, I say, finally, he has gone to rest. But it planted a thought in my head, and as I was moving, that thought fought with me in my head. Jal, you've exhausted yourself. Your body is paining. This is time. You can do the same as him, and then you'll just lay to rest. Imagine when you see suffering, you're suffering here, and then you run to the next suffering, you overcome that, and then another suffering comes. That's how my life has always been. And here, how did I fight these thoughts? I said, I want to stay alive. I want to go to school. I want to tell these stories. I want to show what happened to me. I want to meet my brothers and sisters. And those conversations gave me that built-in motivation to move on. I want to be a part of a solution someday, so I'm not going to do that. And as I continue with the journey, my left toe was cut. And because it was cut, every time I make any step, it was hurting me. And the pain, I couldn't bear it anymore. And so at one point I stood still. What I can recall is when your future, your present, and the past collide negatively at one moment, you lose hope. I started looking at my past, it was ugly. And I started looking at my future, I could not see it. And I look at my present, it was overwhelming. My future was a sea of darkness that I could not see anything. My present, people are dying, I'm starving, I'm suffering. And what has always helped me is my imagination, where I'm able to escape in that world and create something where I can hide and smile and create the future. And what is imagination? It's the creative faculty of the mind. This is where we are all creative. All human beings are creative. And I love it when I see everybody talk about the art, because it allowed to create a mental space for me to be able to breathe. Now, I was not able to activate that part of my mind. And our imagination is what restores hope. It's what allows us to see things. It's allow us to create that mental space. So when I was not able to create that, I stood still. And the thoughts that took that young man's life overcome me. And I tried to cock my gun with my hand. It was too hard. So I used my foot. So I cocked my gun with my foot and I stood still, looking at the barrel, and then I closed my eye. There's a sense of peace that finally I am here and this is all gonna be over. Then I fired it with my toe. The bullet failed. So the bullet did not come out. And I froze still. I thought I was gone until the pain on my foot came. And when that pain came, a voice whispered in my head, telling me you are here for a reason. And I picked that voice and I repeated over and over. I believe I've survived for a reason. And that reason, I'm gonna stay alive. And it activated the words I used to talk to myself. Now, by that sense of belief, that assurance that I'm in this world for a reason, has stuck with me up to today. And as we move on the journey, we arrive in much difficult area, a swampy ground where people are just drowning. And we're exhausted. We could not move. We were starving. And at this moment, I remember the survival guilt is when you are in a situation and you're not able to help when you think you can. So a child soldier collapsed in front of me and drowned in a shallow ground. And I looked at him, and then there was another older man who tried to pick him up. They both drowned. Here I am looking at two people drowning in front of me, and I did nothing. Those words that I recite to myself, that I'm here for a reason, came back. And where did I go to create my mental space? Imagination. So I escaped myself into that world to see how would it look like in the future? How would it look like if I become a doctor? How would it look like if I become a teacher? And then I got there and I saw myself as a kid, and through that imagination, I was able to breathe. But I came back to my senses. A question popped in my mind. Jal, you're always thinking about being a part of a solution in the future. What is it that you can do right now? So question to him, why don't you eat that tree? If you don't die, share it with the rest. I started eating that tree. The leaves, I shared it with the rest. Why don't you collect the snails on the water? I collect. So I became so creative and be able to see opportunities. So imagination allows us to think outside the box. It teaches us how to think. When in school, we're taught what to think. And when we combine both of them, where we're able how to think, and also we've been taught what to think, we become extraordinary. And so at this moment, one thing that stuck with me is, wherever I am, no matter even in this pandemic situation, what helped me is my imagination, because I'm able to see different things and I'm able to create my mental space. So what I like to share here is, after I survived, a British aid worker called Emma McCune, who rescued me and took me to school in Kenya. Now, life there was difficult, you know. Here I am in school. A teacher's teaching in class, and the pen gets stuck in my hand. And sometimes I'd wish the teacher asked me a question, Jal, what is in your mind? Because the past has taken the moment. How did it impact me? When a teacher is talking, it's like my head will explode. I'm not comfortable, I'm going. But when an art teacher stepped in, when they show some drawing stuff, or a funny teacher doing diagram and doing other things, I'm able to concentrate. They're able to catch me. When the music came in, I'm dancing. So I came to realize something. When I dance, or when I run, or when I do sport, or I remember I was given something to draw something. And when I take time to draw stuff, then after that, maths become much easier. So what I came to understand is logic and reason is too difficult for a traumatized mind to take in. And you can understand kids who have difficulties. When you go to school, the one who are finding it hard to pay attention or do difficult things, something happened to them. So automatically, by nature, our right brain will draw us to simple things. And those simple things create mental space. Things that are joyful, maybe hugging a tree, walking in the nature, becoming spiritual, drawing and dancing. All of those things, what do? They create mental space so we can face the difficult part. Now, when you have a strong logical brain and you lack this aspect of life, you become cold and you actually miss what life is all about. So creativity in arts makes us human. And so, where am I right now? I'm an accidental musician, and it brought me international attention and made me to travel globally and gave my life a meaning. So there is, suffering is disposable and essential for growth. And suffering will always come. When we fail to find a meaning in our suffering, we exist to suffer. Now, through the arts and the beliefs that I have, when I dance, when I create something, or when I look at another artist who did something, that moment it gives my life a meaning. I get to see something. So now I'm a recording artist where I travel around the world. With the new life that has come into me, it has opened many avenues that I'm even able to collaborate and work with MasterPeace and do things. So now I go to schools where I share my experiences there for social emotional learning, but also use it as a way for other kids to learn and see themselves. So I form a charity called Gua Africa, which work with families, individuals to help them overcome the effect of war and poverty. And now we have also educational packs that show the ways that I've used to overcome my trauma and be able to achieve what I do. And I also conduct well-being workshops now to show people how they can use their mind, how they can create mental space. What I came to understand, through art, we're able to increase our mental power, our mental capacity. We're able to widen the space to which we can create more. And so I want to stop here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Francis and Jose. I have to admit that I have done this a couple of times and still I have something that I cannot really do, but I'm working. Now for the last couple of minutes, I wanted to give the platforms to our wonderful friends at MasterPeace to build on what Emmanuel Jal was saying and to finish on a high note. Art and Ragda, it's yours.
Hey everyone, and I don't know if you can create a mental space for these ones enough. It has been very inspiring journey of 90 minutes, and I think you know, starting up this, we said that we want anything but a boring normal panel, and I feel that towards the end of it, it was anything but boring another Zoom call. I want to start with what Emmanuel Jal, our great ambassador in MasterPeace, ended his conversation with, "You're a reason enough." And we have a campaign called 7 Billion Strong, and I think now it's called 7 Billion Reasons. When we started MasterPeace almost 10 years ago, we were firm believers in the role of art and soft power and music, of bringing people together to start a conversation about peace building. And it felt lonely at the beginning because a lot of people didn't really see immediately the connection between two, let alone and in education and business and different forms of the public sphere. And now, 10 years later, I think we come together with so many like-minded. There's a long road ahead of integrating the idea of how can education serves art and art serves education, and basically in every form of life. But definitely the road is so much brighter, seeing all the similar minded organizations, individuals, you know, around this virtual space, but also beyond. We can see how it not only connect people together, which is, you know, what we believe in as the first step, but also it helps to go into opening a society dialogue. And it happens to be also the 10th anniversary of the Egyptian Revolution. And it's really started with art, and people could see the revolution, you know, being built up by the artistic scene underground. So it came to surprise to so many people. But if you were closely listening to the underground music, you could predict that happening. And it's always a driver of a society conversation, and it moves into building perspectives like we saw with our speakers. Thank you, Community Arts Network, of bringing this awesome lineup of you know, speakers, but more, you know, organizations. And we're looking forward in MasterPeace to connect with all of you. And because this is the road we believe in 10 years ago, and we can't wait, you know, to also explore more in the upcoming 10 years. So thanks for making this a platform for this to happen.